world moves fast. Your workday? Even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Imagine that this line represents time. Present 1985, future, past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate you, me, and Einstein. Reality for everyone else.
Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole. My name's Jeremy, and here's our Fringe news for the week of January 4th, 2026. First, we start with a revisit from our last Fringe news segment from New Year's Day. In a segment I'm calling Not Just Drones, the New Jersey Swarm, and the Nasca Connection. As we close the book on 2025, the so-called December drone crisis over New Jersey and Colorado has morphed from a national security headache into a full-blown Fortean mystery. For weeks, mysterious swarms of large, unidentifiable drones have been spotted hovering over sensitive sites, such as nuclear power plants, military bases, and reservoirs. These aren't your average hobbyist quadcopters. Witnesses describe car-sized craft operating in coordinated grids, silent and seemingly immune to standard anti-drone countermeasures. The narrative took a sharp turn this week when reports surfaced linking the timing of these swarms to renewed interest in the Tridactyl Nasca mummies. Just as Congress was debating the drone legislation to clamp down on airspace, new analysis on the Nasca specimens, specifically the smaller reptilian-like bodies, suggested their biological makeup might be far more complex and potentially technologically integrated than previously thought. The mainstream media is frantic to label these aerial incursions as foreign adversaries testing our defenses like China or Russia. However, the flight characteristics tell a different story. These objects have been loitering for hours, far beyond the battery life of conventional drones and vanishing instantly when intercepted. It feels like a soft invasion or perhaps a test of our perceptual limits. What makes this truly rabbit hole material is a lack of debris. Despite shooting down or jamming attempts reported in hushed circles, no physical wreckage has been presented to the public. It echoes the Foo Fighters of World War II, but on a massive synchronized scale. Are we looking at a terrestrial adversary, or is this phenomenon shifting its guise again, moving from saucers to drones to fit our current technological expectations? Meanwhile, the Tridactyl connection suggests a synchronicity. Are these biological entities and the aerial swarms part of the same non-human intelligence ecosystem? The timing of the drone panic, distracting from the Nasca revelations, is suspicious at best, suggesting a controlled narrative to keep us looking up in fear rather than down in wonder at the history we've already dug up. If these are indeed foreign adversaries, why the blatant display over populated areas with lights on? Or, if this is the phenomenon, why adopt the guise of drones right now? I have a few highlighted points from the segment for you to consider. 1. The phenomenon has historically mirrored the cutting-edge technology of the observer. In 1897, we saw airships. In the 1940s, ghost rockets. In the 50s, saucers. Now that we are in the age of unmanned aerial systems, the phenomenon manifests as drones. It's a camouflage mechanism, appearing just explainable enough to be dismissed as tech, but performing just beyond the laws of physics. 2. As Jacques Vallée often notes, the phenomenon displays an element of absurdity to negate analysis. Flying lit up formations over nuclear sites without attacking, merely observing, is a psychological operation, not a technical one. It forces a reaction without an act of war. And 3. The simultaneous drone panic serves as an ontologically safer distraction than admitting we have recovered biological entities, aka the Tridactyls. It keeps the public focused on nuts and bolts, being the drones, rather than the existential threat of non-human biology. Moving on to segment 2, which I'm calling the interstellar visitor that refuses to phone home. Remember Oumuamua, the cigar-shaped interstellar object that baffled us in 2017? Well, its potential cousin, the comet 3I Atlas, just made its closest approach to Earth, or the perigee, on December 19th, 2025, and astronomers have been holding their breath. This week, the results from the Breakthrough Listen project were released using the massive Green Bank telescope. They scanned the object for technosignatures, or radio signals, that would indicate artificial origin. The result? Silence. Not a beep, boop, or encoded message. For the skeptics, this is case closed. It's just a rock. But for those of us tracking the weird, the silence is almost more suspicious. 3I Atlas, like Oumuamua, exhibited non-gravitational acceleration, meaning it sped up in ways that simple outgassing, or the rocket effect of melting ice, couldn't fully explain given its lack of visible tail. The object is now heading back out into the dark void, leaving us with more questions than answers. The fact we dedicated one of the world's most powerful listening ears to it shows that even mainstream science is jittery about the fact that we dedicated one of the world's most powerful listening ears to it shows that even mainstream science is jittery about these interstellar visitors. We are spotting them more frequently now, not because there are more of them, but because our eyes are finally open. Is it a derelict probe? A piece of space junk from a dead civilization, or simply a rock acting weirdly? The null results on radio waves doesn't rule out a passive sensor probe that only calls home via laser or high-frequency burst we can't detect. We also have to consider the zoo hypothesis. If it was a probe and it detected us listening, perhaps it went dark. Or maybe, just maybe, it's not communicating via radio waves at all, but through quantum entanglement and technology we are only just beginning to scratch the surface of. With that being said, here are a few points I'd like to make regarding 3I Atlas and the way we as humans have absorbed its passing through our solar system, specifically about our use of technology that is looking for radio waves, and why it may not be the best way to look at the anomaly. 1. We suffer from the bias of assuming ET tech mirrors our current state. Radio is energy inefficient and slow for interstellar distances. 2. A truly advanced probe might use gravitational waves, which we can barely detect. Maybe even neutrino beams, which passes through matter. Or what I mentioned here at the end, quantum entanglement, which is basically instantaneous state change. And then there's 3. If 3I Atlas is a Bracewell probe, or an autonomous sentinel, it might be programmed to remain passive until it detects a specific threshold of civilization. Example given, warp drive or 0-point energy, which we haven't reached. Its silence is a feature, not a bug. Moving on to segment 3, which I'm calling Science Admits the Universe Might Be Mental, not material. In a move that sounds more like a mystic's vision than a physicist's paper, a controversial new study published in AIP Advances late last month is shaking the foundation of materialism. The paper proposes that a universal consciousness may have existed before the Big Bang. The researchers argue that consciousness is not a byproduct of wet biology like our brains that evolved late in the game, but rather a fundamental feature of reality like gravity or electromagnetism. This theory, often called panpsychism or cosmopsychism, suggests that the universe didn't just happen to become aware. It started as awareness and condensed into matter. This aligns terrifyingly well with the holographic universe theory. In ancient Hermetic principles, the all is mind. If this math holds up, it means that when we investigate ghosts, spirits, or even telepathy, we aren't looking at supernatural anomalies. We are looking at the base layer of reality interacting with itself. The study challenges the integrated information technology, or IIT, by suggesting you don't need complex networks to have consciousness. You just need the fundamental field. This explains why we see intelligence in slime molds, plants, and even stars, as suggested by Rupert Sheldrake. It's a massive paradigm shift. If consciousness is primary, then death is just a change in frequency, not an end of existence. Science is finally catching up with what shamans have said for millennia. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are the universe experiencing itself. Following said question are, if consciousness is the fundamental fabric of the universe, does that validate the concept of tulpas or thought forms? Can we literally think things into existence? My thoughts are, 1, yes, absolutely. If reality is mental at its core, then concentrated thought consciousness could theoretically manipulate the hologram of matter. This validates the Tibetan concept of the tulpa and the modern phenomenon of the Philip experiment. 2, quantum physics already shows the observer effect that the observer affects the collapsed waveform. This new theory scales that up. The universe itself is the ultimate observer. Our individual minds are just alters or localized nodes of that great mind. This also explains why poltergeist activity often centers around emotional turmoil. It's not a spirit, it's raw chaotic consciousness affecting the material substrate because the barrier between mind and matter is thinner than we think.
What's going on? I'm Arch Manning, Viore athlete and college quarterback. Whether I'm running, training, traveling, or just unwinding at home, I love doing it in my core shorts from Viore. With a breathable boxer brief liner, they're quick to dry, super versatile, and stand up to even my most intense training sessions. Plus, they come in 3 inseams and a ton of colors. Ready to try a pair? Go to viore.com/arch and get 20% off at checkout. I think you're going to love them as much as I do. That's viore.com/ARCH and get 20% off your first order. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Have a great day.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Año nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals de McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
Moving on to segment 4. One I'm calling Baba Vanga, the Donald, and the Year of Contact. The rumor mill is spinning at light speed regarding the year 2026. Late in December 2025, reports began circulating that President Trump in his second term, received a classified briefing on the UAP reality that was somber and definitive. This coincided with the resurgence of a prophecy by the blind Bulgarian mystic, Baba Vanga. Vanga, who famously predicted the 9/11 attacks and the Chernobyl disaster, allegedly claimed that 2026 would be the year of first contact with a non-human civilization. Specifically, her followers cite a prediction about a large spacecraft arriving or revealing itself this year. Now, we usually take Vanga's predictions with a grain of salt. She has a lot of misses too, but the timing is uncanny. We have the Goldilocks zone of disclosure happening right now. The Schumer-Rounds Amendment, even in its watered-down form, is forcing declassification. Whistleblowers are testifying, and now the executive briefing rumors suggest the White House is preparing for something big. Is the contact a landing on the White House lawn? No, unlikely. It's more likely to be an irrefutable signal. Maybe Three Eye Atlas did wake up, or in an undeniable mass sighting like the Phoenix Lights, but recorded in 4K? Or perhaps contact means we finally admit that the intelligence has always been there, under the ocean or in the interdimensional spaces. The convergence of fringe prophecy and political disclosure is creating a fever pitch. If the government knows a clean disclosure is impossible because an arrival is imminent, it explains the sudden rush to control the narrative with drone talk. They are trying to get ahead of a story they can no longer suppress. My question here: why does disclosure always seem to be next year? Is this just the carrot on the stick, or is 2026 actually different because of the legislative pressure? Because of the legislative pressure. My thoughts on the possibilities regarding this question are: 1, the government isn't hiding aliens to be mean. They are managing the somber reality, as hinted by Lou Elizondo in his book Imminent, but they fear that admitting we are not top of the food chain will collapse religious and economic systems. They push it to next year, hoping to acclimatize us slowly. 2026 is different because the law has changed. The National Defense Authorization Act, which we talked about in the last episode, the language now mandates specific reporting. The gatekeepers are losing their legal shield. And the third thing to think about here is whistleblowers have threatened that if the government doesn't do it, they will. 2026 might be the deadline the whistleblowers set, not the government. We might be in a game of chicken between the secret keepers and the truth tellers. For our last segment of the day, we're going to dive into what I'm calling immortality in a petri dish, reversing brain aging. Researchers have successfully reversed brain aging in mice by replacing their immune cells, the microglia, with younger lab-grown versions. This isn't just stopping the clock, it's turning it back. The treated mice learned faster, had better memory, and less inflammation. Essentially, they got their 20s brain back in their 80s. While this sounds like great news for Alzheimer's research, let's look at the rabbit hole implications. If we can rejuvenate the biological substrate of the brain, are we paving the way for extended lifespans where the elite can hoard wisdom and power for centuries? Furthermore, this ties into the brain-computer interface, breakthroughs of 2025 and 2026. If we can keep the wetware, or brain, young and interface it with AI, we are rapidly approaching the transhumanist singularity. Imagine a future where the ruling class doesn't just inherit wealth, but inherits time. They could live for 200 years with the mental acuity of a 25-year-old, augmented by AI. It creates essentially a new species, but split. Okay, well, it takes our species and splits it into two separate species, right? The Homo sapiens, us, who age and die, and what I'm calling the Homo Deus, them who upgrade and persist. This is the sorcerer's stone of modern medicine. It's not just about health. It's about escaping the final constraint of the human condition, death. And as we know from folklore, cheating death always comes with a price. So let me ask you, if you could reset your brain to its 25-year-old state, but keep your memories, would you? And does the biological tampering risk severing our connection to the spiritual side of death? Here's a few things to think about. One, many esoteric traditions believe aging is the process of the soul loosening its grip on the body to prepare for the next stage. If we trap the consciousness in a perpetually young body, do we stunt spiritual evolution? Are we creating a prison of flesh? Ancient myths, like the pre-flood kings, speak of humans living for hundreds of years. Did they have this technology? Did it lead to their hubris and destruction? We might be rediscovering the lost technology, let's say, that sank Atlantis. And finally, a young brain processes fast, but lacks the crystallized intelligence of age. If we mix old memories with young processing, we might create a superintelligence, or we might create a disjointed consciousness that can't relate to the natural cycle of life. It's a dangerous game. Well, now that I've covered everything in this whatever, right? New format that I'm presenting to you guys. Well, let me go through my chat. I kept the chat specifically set aside so I didn't get distracted this time. Let's see if there's any good questions. Right on. Skeeter has been sounding off. Grismatically Clever from YouTube. What's up? Hey, good to see you. But yeah, this is basically a live update segment is what Skeeter's calling it. And that's a good one to use. I'm not officially sold on what I'm going to call the segment yet. But we can go with that for now. Just having a lot of fun creating these little scripts to read off to you guys. Without really any questions, there's not much else I can really do. I'm just, excited to share where my thought processes are, on the day by day thing. This is the second one of January, 2 and 3 days now. So yeah, I'm kind of just rambling now. So I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Just wanted to get that out quick, get you guys caught up on some interesting news to hang your hat on and be interested in with me. If you have any thoughts or things you want me to cover in the next segment, let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the infinite rabbit hole. Bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to infiniterabbithole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye.